Okay, here we go. Let's continue from the last point. So where was I?
Indeed.
Wait a second, let me check something else first. My mic is working fine. The recording also working fine. Okay, let's do this. Bear Cave. Bear. Okay.
Onward!
Bear hide. Found across the regions of Airglanfath and the Deerwood. Bears are formidable predators. They are among the beasts most highly regarded by servants of the god of the hunt, who often seek out the largest and most deadly of the species to prove their skill. Bear hides are highly valued, and the claws of the elders among them are often strung into necklaces and totems, marking the wearer as a hunter of worth. Mice crawl through eye sockets and over femurs. Lost spirit. A figure drifts, suspended in the musty air of the cavern. Its form and features blur and twist in cascading ripples of incandescence. You feel its energy eddying about your limbs, feeling them with a heavy chill. Reach out. You reach out a hand for the spirit. In the moment of contact, you feel as if you have been struck a blow, head reeling as you tumble helplessly into a waiting darkness. Light blooms at the edges of your vision. You feel the sun at your back, and the weight of a bow in your hand. You know suddenly that you have come a long way from the vale hunting deer. Now you are standing before a cavern, and the darkness extends far into its depths. Even so, your friend strides out before you, his red cloak flapping at his heels. You follow, heart hammering in your chest, as he heads you deeper into the cavern, as he leads you deeper into the cavern. There is a roar like a thunder echoing around you, Fear seizes you, casts you stumbling back towards the exit, towards light and escape. You see a glint of steel, and there is a sudden terrible flash of agony behind your knee. You scream, stumble, fall. Your thoughts are chaos, lanced through with pain, but in a moment of terrible clarity you see your friend look back from the mouth of the cavern, his dagger daubed in crimson to match his cloak. And then there is a great, dark shape above you, and then there is more pain. The vision recedes, and you are thrown back into yourself with seemingly resentful force. The corpse lies at your feet, and the spectre lingers, in a span of energy between you both. In the span of energy between you both, you feel a sense of questioning, of confusion, of anger. Aris Mittal says, I met him on the road, your friend. A sudden lashing anger emanates from the spirit. Rage and grief seem to pour from the gleaming figure like a smoke. Aris Mittal says, I'll find him and see that he answers for what he's done to you. For a moment the spirit seems to burn bright, and your head fills with sickly triumph. The spirit seems to weaken with the force of its own exaltation, growing fainter and fainter until you are alone once more. Confront non-ton. Fine. If that is what you want, I'll confront non-ton. Shattered pieces of a crate are strewn across the dirt, along with a few muddy vegetables. Folded note. My dear non-ton, please be safe. Know that whatever happens, I love you still. The corpse in the cave. He loves non-ton. They are best friends. Gilded Vale. It will take you 8 hours to complete your journey from Valewood to Gilded Vale. Gilded Vale, Windmill, Ingroid's house, Road East, Blackhammer Smithery, Road south, Temple of Eothas, Eder, Aloth, the Black Hound Inn. Road west, Aufra's house. North, hanged bodies, grim.
You must be one of the new settlers. Welcome to Gilded Vale. You'll be pleased to know that we've had some recent vacancies here.
Urgiat, a man approaches you, his skin as dull and grey as the desolate village behind him. He scans you with sunken, lifeless eyes. His voice is a dry croak. He glances at the gnarled, leafless monstrosity of a tree next to him. Aris Mittal says, "Are you mad? No wonder this place looks half empty." The only answer you hear is the buzzing of flies from the tree.
Of course, we'll need to make some inquiries first. The inestimable Lord Radric VII has taken great pains to insulate our town from Widewind's legacy. Have you ever sired a Hollowborn child?
Urgiat's gaze swivels back to you. He appraises you over half-moon spectacles and scratches his chin. Aris Mittal says, "No."
Are you absolutely certain? Lord Raderick has made it his first priority to eliminate this scourge from our village.
Urgiat's eyes narrow.
I should warn you, stranger. Here in Gilded Vale, we have a special place for dissidents, charlatans, and those who would hide a curse in our midst.
Urgiat steps to the side and inclines his head ever so slightly toward the deformed tree. So Urgiat is threatening Aris Mittal with hanging.
His lordship's wife is with child and due any day now. Without his approval, I shan't be able to find you a permanent settlement. It will have to wait until after the birth. We can continue our interview then, after the bell tolls from Radric's hold to signal my lord's new heir. In the meantime, you can find temporary accommodations at the inn just southwest of here.
Aris Mittal says, "That tree over there." Urgiat doesn't even look over his shoulder. Ah yes, not everyone has accepted the measures necessary to keep the village safe, ever since Lord Rydrick banished the mothers of Hollowborn. Some have taken up arms against him, and while he's been searching for a cure, he's been beset with frauds and opportunists. So the people hanged on the tree are people who have taken up arms against Lord Rydrick. Urgiat says, "We've had ciphers, wizards, and animancers come through town, taking the Lord's coin and promising to end the curse. Lord Rydrick finally decided to make an example of those who would profit from our tragedy." Urgiat points to the body of a dwarven woman. The latest was an animancer from the Violian republics, who claimed to know techniques none of us had seen. By now, we've seen it all. Aris Mittal says, you said something about Hollowborn and White One's legacy before. Urgiat blinks. I forget that you foreigners do not have this curse in your homelands. The Hollowborn have been a scourge upon the Deerwood for almost 15 years now. He lowers his voice to a whisper. Children born without souls. He shakes his head. Pitiful, dumb things that breathe, barely, but do not truly live. Some say the Hollowborn are a disease, some say they are a punishment from the gods. He raises his empty hands. In truth, no one knows, but they began spreading after the Saints' War, and so the name White One's legacy stuck in honor of that foul, blasphemous pretender. His voice shakes with vitriol. So, White One refers to a person. Aris Mittal says, I see. Urgiat says, Lord Rydric's decrees may seem strict at times, but he has our best interests at heart. He nods. If you have any other questions, don't hesitate to ask. It's important that everyone in Gilded Vale understand our rules. Aris Mittal says, I'd like to report a murder. Urgiat, the magistrate, raises a brow. Is this your duty? What was happened? Aris Mittal says, the man called Nonton has killed his friend. Early, out in the wilds. Urgiat says, a cruel and a cowardly deed, if indeed it occurred at all. What evidence do you have? Aris Mittal says, I had a vision of the victim's final moments. I saw the crime unfold. Urgiat says, a vision. He sighs. We do not take such accusations lightly in these parts. Next time you feel inclined to jest about such things, I would suggest that you reflect upon the risks involved. He looks pointedly at the tree. So, another threat. Aris Mittal says, I've been feeling strange ever since a close call with a Beowick. Is there someone in town who could help?
Whatever your problem, it sounds like a matter for an animancer. However, the only animancer in Gilded Vale isn't in any condition to speak. Consider yourself fortunate. After she failed Lord Radric, we saw to it that she wouldn't profit from the misplaced trust of others. A bad cure is often worse than none at all.
Urgiat the magistrate frowns. He points at a body hanging from the tree. He sneers. So, this magistrate has a hobby of pointing out the tree with the hanged bodies and making threats with it.
But if you're set on finding a bottle of troll piss or a dead Audra pebble to rub on your forehead, you're welcome to check her pockets. A little corpse stink is nothing when you're digging for shit. My advice, however, is to be satisfied that you escaped and leave it at that.
Aris Mittal says, before I got here, I saw several people conducting a strange ceremony near some ruins. Urgiat regards you carefully. You'll want to mind where you mention that. Trespassing on Engwithan ruins is illegal, not to mention dangerous. You probably saw someone attempting some new ritual to appease the gods. People will try anything in these days. Berath have mercy. We certainly have. Aris Mittal says, I don't think so. Just as they finished, there was a Beowick. Urgiat polishes his spectacles on his sleeve. If you'd been that close to a biowick, you wouldn't be standing here. Arismital says goodbye.
Keep out of...
Urgiat nods curtly.
Listen!
2 tolls. Let that be the last.
3. Gods have mercy.
It seems your arrival is ill-timed.
Urgiat looks out toward the east, his expression unreadable. He blinks slowly and turns his attention back to you.
3 bells toll only for the death of a Radric. I fear Lord Radric's heir is lost, or else Hollowborn, and so lost all the same. You should tread carefully. Circumstances have changed a great deal.
A peculiar spasm crosses his face, and the corner of Urgiat's mouth quirks up into a mirthless smile. So, why is he smiling? Is he a psycho? Arismital says. What should Arismital say? Arismital says, "Don't threaten me, little man." Well, Aris, you are an Orlan. You are not in a position to call someone else little. Urgiat shakes his head unmoved. It is no threat, only a warning. Lord Raedric will tolerate no threats to his kin, or those who live upon his lands. Grief will not make him more docile. Arismital says, "What do you mean?" Urgiat says, "You come to us at a time of mourning. The legacy has struck at the heart of Gilded Vale. Our efforts to redeem ourselves in the eyes of Berath must be redoubled." He sets a steady gaze on you. Arismital says, "What happened?" Urgiat shrugs one bony shoulder. "I will know more details when the messengers arrive. The vagaries of childbirth, perhaps, but that is not your concern." Arismital says, "Does this affect the Lord's offer to new settlers?" Urgiat says, "I can be sure of nothing right now. I advise you to get some rest. The inn, or a stable for all I care. Find me afterwards. I will know more soon enough." Arismital says farewell.
Were you looking for someone in that tree? I could introduce you.
Arismital says, "Looking for anyone who can help me feel better." Eder gives an understanding nod as he takes a long drag from his pipe. "My condolences." He exhales and turns his attention away, watching the village around him. "Things are about to get worse now," says a villager. "Don't be stupid. They can possibly get any worse." "Been thinking about joining family over in Deer 4. They have it far better than us." Used to have a lot more fortune tellers come through. Lord Rydrick has had us chase them off. You'd think these rains would be a boon for the crops. The Black Hound Inn's a fine place to sit and have a smoke. Aloth. You see 4 people gathered by the door to the inn. Their raised voices and chopping gestures suggest an argument reaching its climax. The first figure raises his hands for calm. His face is partially obscured by a hood, but his height and stature suggest an elf.
I meant no offense. Let's put this matter to rest over a round, shall we? My treat.
Hoping to soothe our pride with a few Adira coppers, eh? We don't need your coin.
Angry townswoman. The others, 2 folkmen and an elven woman, don't look convinced. The woman crosses her arms. She spits at his feet. Aris Mittal says, "Everyone calm down. Whatever this is about, I'm sure it's an overreaction." One of the other men glares at the hooded elf. His eyes are red from drink, but his gaze is focused. We're humble folk, but we are no fools, not like he thinks, mocking us while he shelters in our village. We don't take that kind of talk from foreigners, especially not Idirans.
Go on. Say it again. I'm itching for an excuse.
The second man thrusts his chin at the elf. He stinks of sour ale.
Fie, you're itching for the kindling touch of your sister, you cocksfeather!
Alos's accent changes.
I'll cut that barrel-licking tongue out of your head.
A collective cry of outrage rises from the 3 locals. The second man snarls.
This is a misunderstanding. I didn't say whatever it is you think I said. We've nigh quarrel.
Horror and shock paint themselves across the elven man's face in broad, hasty strokes. He frowns and swallows. He plants his feet. Something surly and raw flickers through his eyes. His accent changes again.
That's where you're wrong.
The elven woman draws a blade. Aris Mittal says, "This is unnecessary. Wouldn't you rather be inside drinking than out here arguing?" Angry townsman says, "We don't want your charity either, foreigner." They squint at you through red, bleary eyes. It sounds suspiciously like you're defending him. As the last of the attackers falls, the elf turns to you, the tension almost gone from his smooth face.
Not quite how I hoped to get to know the neighbors. Thank you for your timely assistance with that awkward situation.
So, how will the magistrate react to this? We've just killed 3 of the town's people. This is not good. This is, yes, self-defense, but things might escalate. Arismital says, I'm glad I could help.
Courtesy is a rare pleasure in these parts, though your accent suggests that you are no more local than I.
Aloth gives you a quick smile. He straightens his hood, and you note the remains of fraying embroidery on his gloves. His boots are caked with the dirt of many months' travel, but the leatherwork beneath it is sturdy and fine.
Well, I suppose introductions are in order after that little fiasco. Aloth Corvisor, at your service.
Arismital says, you'd better have more to say for yourself than that. I agree. Because of your goading, the fight happened. 3 people died. It could have been prevented, and you dragged me into this mess. Aloth holds up his hands. Please, I didn't mean to drag you into this. So, why did you provoke the townspeople?
Well, I'm a wizard by training, and an adventurer by necessity. I was born in the Seathwood, part of the mainland of the Adir Empire, and both of my parents served the nobility, which afforded me an education for which I'm grateful. However, there were no open positions in those houses, and so I decided to seek new means in a new land. And how exactly did you come to be here?
Arismital says, I was traveling with a caravan, but we were separated near some ruins. That's not what happened. Heodan and Kalisha died. Why did Arismital lied to Aloth?
In Gwithan ruins? Well, those can be dangerous places during the best of times, which these are not. In half the locals would arrest you for trespassing and the rest would kill you outright. I'm curious, what exactly did you find there?
Aloth leans closer. Arismital says, What should I say? Arismital remains silent. A slow smile creeps across Aloth's face. A man must have his secrets. Very well. Arismital says, what are you doing in Gilded Vale?
An excellent question. I came looking for fresh air and cheap land. Instead, the magistrate gave me directions to the inn and a story about the local lord's expectant wife. But I take it that's a familiar tale.
Aloth folds his arms and frowns, looking toward the center of town. He cocks his head, looking at you. Aloth says, and you? Arismital says, I've been experiencing strange things of late. I'm looking for an expert on souls.
Indeed. The local lord has searched far and wide for similar specialists. He has rid himself of them almost as desperately.
Allah's eyes flicker as he looks you up and down. He nods at the gnarled old tree in the center of town. His darting glance takes in the tumble down buildings and the fallow, rock-strewn fields. Arismital says, "Just how did you manage to cross those 3 drunks?"
I'm afraid that was a matter of misunderstandings and mistranslations. It doesn't help that people in these parts remember their war with Adir like it was yesterday.
Aloth tenses his fingers and looks away. Arismital says, "You did make a rather lewd suggestion regarding one of the aggressors and his own sister." Aloth says, that." He clears his throat and adjusts his sleeves. "As I try to tell them, they misheard me. Happens all too easily after a few pints and the accent doesn't help." Arismital says, "I heard the same thing." For just a moment, Aloth looks as if he's about to say something else. His expression brightens with mischief, but before he can speak, he forces a tight smile, biting his lip so hard you expect to see blood. Finally, his face relaxes, and he shakes his head. "I should speak more clearly next time, my apologies." So, Aloth's expression brightens with mischief. This guy is suspicious. A psycho. Arismital says, "You don't exactly look like a settler."
Begging your pardon, but neither do you. Yet, circumstances can find a person in the strangest of places.
A sly grin crosses Aloth's lips. Arismital says I should get going.
As should I, given recent events. It's just as well. I've had enough of the watered wine and lumpy beds at the inn. They say even the owner tired of the place. Just up and left one day. It explains quite a lot about the upkeep. Perhaps I could join you. I could use a change of scenery, and I find it's better to travel in numbers.
Aloth gives you a guardedly hopeful look. Arismital says, "So do I. Let's go then."
Excellent. I shall follow you.
Good day, stranger.
Pasca says, "Hello, and welcome to the..." The innkeeper looks up. "Oh, it's you. Tenfrith told us what you did for him. It's such a relief to have him back. I can't thank you enough. Gilded Veil Moderate Positive HIV. So, how does this Pasca knows I'm the one who saved Tenfrith? Perhaps Tenfrith described my clothing." Pasca says, "Consider yourself a favorite of the house. Discounts on drinks, rooms. Tenfrith said he wanted to whip up something nice for you. He's already back to work in the kitchen." She laughs. "So, what would you like?" Arismital says, "I'd like a room, please." Pasca says, "Certainly. You're always welcome. Inns allow characters to rest without using camping supplies. Cheap rooms are usually available, but if you have copper to spend, you may consider the more expensive options. The bonuses they provide last for a long time and affect the entire party. Aris Mittal is a nobility, aristocrat. His taste is not common, so he always looks for the best room available. Deerwood's Pride, the most expensive one. Rest in Deerwood's Pride for 113 copper. Rest like Hound Inn. Your sleep is restless and fevered, assaulted by hisses and whispers, blanketed with a suffocating anxiety. You open your eyes to awaken and find yourself in front of Gilded Vale's gallows tree, the creaking of its ropes growing louder in your mind until the sound is deafening. Hanging from the tree is an old dwarf woman whose face has shriveled inward like moldering fruit. Her head hangs limply to one side. As you look at her, she looms larger and larger in your mind until she is mere inches from your face. Suddenly her head snaps up and her eyes open, and they are empty, and behind them is a vast nothingness that makes your stomach drop. Her mouth slowly parts, and with a gust of rancid air she speaks a word. Watcher. You jolt awake, the foul smell of the dwarf woman's breath still permeating your nostrils. Ew, disgusting. Sweat runs down your face in thick droplets, and your skin is soaked from head to toe. You remember the woman. You remember seeing her decaying face when you spoke with the magistrate. He called her an animancer. Though it fills you with new, queasy apprehension, you feel a strange compulsion to see this woman once more, if only to confirm she is truly dead. Scattered between the roots are bracelets of twine and bead, wilting flowers and notes half erased by the rains. Caldera de Beranzi. The same purple aura, like the corpse found in the bear cave. Caldera de Beranzi, the squad, distended body of an elderly dwarf woman dangles from a thin crooked bough that sags at the tuck of her noose. The bloated purple flesh of her neck, worn away in patches like moth-eaten linen, bulges over the rope that suspends her, and her lifeless head lolls forward rigidly from one side to the other when the breeze shifts. You perceive a faint glow around her that casts no light on its surroundings, but there is a tepid warmth to it, and you feel somehow that you could reach out and touch it, not with your hands, but with some aspect of yourself that has no worldly dimension. Reach out for the woman. You take a deep breath, clearing your mind, focusing on your objective. As you exhale, you feel yourself spreading out toward the hanging woman. Perceiving all that lies between you and her with new and familiar awareness. Once you have expanded enough to reach her, there is a sudden jolt to your mind, a ringing, electric surge of images and words and sounds. Involuntarily, you shut your eyes and feel yourself being pulled down to some deeper consciousness in a space occupied only by you and the hanging woman. And when you open them again, she is staring at you with eyes clouded in a milky fog, her body still swaying in a wind you no longer feel from a tree that stands planted in a misty void. The woman gives a slow nod of her head, the rope creaking as she does so, and she smiles at you.
Have you come here for me, dear, or have you gotten lost? Ah, it is both, I think. Yes?
Her eyes squint as she peers down at you. Aris Mittal says, "Am I imagining this?"
No, I think not. A pity that. It would be simpler. A mercy even. To not have to wander anymore, no? Alas, we are here, you and I, wherever here may be.
Caldera de Beranzi considers for a moment, looking down at her own limp body. Her tongue clicks and she shakes her head. Aris Mittal says, "How are you able to speak to me?"
Is that what we're doing? Perhaps it just seems that way. Perhaps it is the easiest way for your mind to make sense of it. I think it is a very good choice.
Caldera moves her tongue around in her mouth as if testing it. She gives you a motherly smile. So she's implying that we are not really speaking to each other. It's just that my mind sees it that way. To make sense of it. I see. Aris Mittal says, "I think I survive a bioweek. Do you know what that would be?"
Did you now, dear? My, that would be something, wouldn't it? Could be luck, could certainly be. A storm can be a careless thing.
Caldera appraises you with scholarly interest for a moment, before resuming her cheerful demeanor.
Or maybe it got its hands around your soul but couldn't pick it up. A soul can be heavy if it stayed in one piece through its time. Strong souls, we call them in the trade. Cold, I mean. Called them. Those days are all behind me now.
Caldera smiled sadly at a thought. Arismetal says, "You said souls break apart over time?"
Oh, yes. Entropy. Rimagan's work. We know little of why or how. We lose pieces of ourselves when we die and pick up pieces of others when we are born again, but less than what we lost. We tried to stop it with the animantic sciences, but with little success. No.
Entropy. Rimergand.
A very small few resist Rimergan's influence and stay together through some force of defiance, at least for a time. But they all succumb eventually, I think.
Caldera clicks her tongue. Arismetal says, "I need to understand something that's happened to me." Caldera nods, a look of pity on her face, as though consoling a child.
The world looks a little different than it used to, is that it? Feels like you're noticing things for the first time that have always been there?
Caldera nods.
You have seen past the shroud. It only takes an instant. Your soul remembers, yes? Remembers how it sees when it leaves the body, like being reminded of a dream you had forgotten. You are a watcher now, and a watcher you will stay.
Arismetal says, "What's a watcher?"
What indeed? Long hours have many animancers spent studying such things. Not I, though. Not I. I'll tell you what I know, though, since fair is fair, and here we are visiting, you and I, and it reminds me of better times. Souls pass on, some say through Audra stones, which are the blood veins of the world. They leave the world for a time and are reborn into it, sometimes more than they were before, but usually less and seldom the same. For all souls there is a time where they do not live, yet have not passed on, and those souls roam the world, same as you or I, either leaving or lost. But no one sees them because they have forgotten how.
Odema mentioned the Adra stones, the rocks that come out through the ground.
A watcher sees, though, knows what to look for. And sometimes they know a person just by looking at them, know where they've been in ages past when their bodies were other bodies. See memories even their owner can't recall. A wonder to behold when all goes well. A wonder!
Arismetal says, "What did you mean when all goes well?"
Oh, nothing to be afraid of, I'm sure. It's just much to take in for some. Sometimes there's trouble sleeping or other difficulties.
Caldera smiles at you reassuringly, fanning out a tuft of long whiskers that sprouts from one of her cheeks. Why does she have whiskers? Is she a cat?
You should see old Meerwald. He could tell you much more than I. A watcher just like you. Helped many in his day. Took up in an old keep no one would claim. Not far, not far. Kadnua, beyond the Black Meadow. He will welcome the company.
An inspired gleam crosses Caldara's murky eyes. Aris Mittal says, I want to know something about you.
Me? I'll bore you to tears, though.
Caldara shakes her head in protest. Aris Mittal says, who are you?
And here I thought you'd come to visit me in particular. Caldara de Baranzi, of the Valian Royal Academy of Animantic Sciences. Not the greatest of their number, but I came here all the same because this was where help was needed.
Caldara breathes a mild sigh, sending a small beetle skittering from inside her cheek. Her arms turn outward stiffly in what might be a courtesy. Small beetle skittering from inside her cheek. What the f... Aris Mittal says, what happened to you? Caldara laughs, a rasping, choked cackle escaping between rows of buttery yellow teeth, causing her body to bob up and down with each spasm. Seeing your blank expression, she catches herself. Buttery yellow teeth. Disgusting.
Oh, come now. Such a question. As though the answer were plain as a rope tied for strangling. Allow an old dwarf her last bit of cheer. Well, I came where I was needed, didn't I? Offered my services to Lord Radric for a pittance. A humble pittance. I was to examine the Lord's wife, see why the gods have seen fit to poison her womb. Studied her for months, looked high and low for impurities, tested her valence, the permeability of her essence. Do you know what I found?
Aris Mittal says, tell me.
Nothing at all. A healthy woman, head to toe, blessed with a beautiful soul. Such a sweet woman, too. Meek, but warm-hearted. A few months' time, and the lord of the house demanded answers. For a time, I told him what he wanted to hear. Oh, yes, my lord, she is riddled with imbalances. I must have time to cure her. As the birth drew near, he grew impatient, as lords do. And this is where I've ended up.
Caldara shakes her head. Aris Mittal says, what's an animancer?
A student of the soul. Something so basic, yet so poorly understood. But so many breakthroughs have been made in my lifetime. Had been made. Had been. To hear the locals tell it, we're a gang of soul manglers that preys upon the weak-minded. And the worst of us are...
Caldara chuckles.
But the best of us? The best? Inspirations, miracle workers. My parents were soul twins, miserable before they met, empty inside. It was an animancer who helped one find the other, turned their lives around. You wouldn't believe the stories. Amnesiacs helped to remember their lives. The suicidal brought back from the brink of oblivion. The elderly afforded extra moments to say their goodbyes. How soon we forget when we're afraid. It's a fascinating science. A fascinating time to be alive in a place like Deerwood that does not control the research, no? I love the Valian Republics for many things, but their recent caution will leave them behind, I fear.
Arismital says, I had other questions.
Of course, dear.
Arismital says, farewell.
Goodbye, my dear. It was lovely visiting.
Caldera closes her eyes, and her head slumps forward over the noose, and your surroundings seem to bleed into your vision from some unknown place of waiting. Arismital was granted Crucible of the Soul. Aloth looks at you through narrowed eyes. Are you alright? You seemed lost just now. Arismital says, I'm a watcher. Aloth's arched eyebrows recede into his hood. Well, that is interesting. He gives you a sly grin, and I expect that explains your earlier reticence about your experience in the ruins, In any case, I appreciate your honesty. Since we're traveling together, it's probably wise for us to share these things. Arismital says, do you know anything about Watchers? Aloth says, only that they are rare, and that they seem to have unique insights into certain soul conditions. Aloth coughs, as you just demonstrated. Arismital says, let's continue on. So, Caldera wants me to go to Kait Nua.
17 and a half.
17 and a half, says Eder. The smell of pipe smoke, at once earthy and sweet, winds its way into your nostrils. Your eyes trace the smoke to its origin, where you find a broad man with straw-colored hair, leaning against a mossy rock wall, his pipe held to his lips with one meaty hand. He looks you directly in the eye, but the look is not aggressive. He regards you with a peculiar smirk. Meaty hand. What else is meaty?
17 and a half. Well, could be 18, depending on how you count the dwarf woman.
Arismital says, what are you talking about?
The people hanging from the tree. 18 of them. Well, last I counted, anyway.
Aloth frowns. Is that what you people do for fun around here?
Name's Adair. Though to the people around here, might as well be 19. Don't think I'd put you much higher than 22, 23 tops. You look like the sort that likes to get involved.
Adair extends his hand. He looks you up and down, and grimaces. Arismital says, what was that about a dwarf?
The dwarf woman. You were trying to figure out whether to count her as a full person. I think you oughta.
Arismital says, what makes you think I was interested in the dwarf woman? Eder looks at you a moment, his brow arched. His smirk broadens.
I was smoking over here, saw you staring at her. Twice I refilled my pipe. You never so much as blinked. Your mouth was so slack I took you for a Radric at first.
Arismital says, impossible. I don't drool half as much. So, Arismital implies that a Rydrick drools. How does Aris know about that? Isn't he new to this place? And he's from the Living Lands, not from Deerwood. Maybe tales of this Rydrick travels far and wide, of him or them being drooly. Adair says, "Ha, so you're already familiar. Still, you'll have to forgive my curiosity. Round here we prefer to turn a blind eye to our dead." Arismital says, "Do you know what a watcher is?"
Careful, friend. Best not use that word round here. Could be any number of Radric bootlickers within earshot. Ciphers, animancers, watchers. Same thing in the eyes of folks round here, Radric especially. They come to these parts all the time with their cures, preying on the desperate. None of them are who they claim to be.
Adair glances about quickly, then leans in.
Of course, seeing you with that funny look, I'd be halfway inclined to believe you were having some kind of communion with that dwarf. Either case, maybe I'm not 19 after all. No offense.
Arismital says, "What's that supposed to mean?" Adair says, "Hey, don't blame me. I don't have a say. You can take my word for that."
The town's had it in for me for a long time now. Only fellow who ever stuck up for me, well, he's number 18 up there. My headman on the farm. Used to be my captain during the war.
Arismital says, "Why was your headman hanged?" Adair says, "Got involved. Rydrick sent men down here the other day. Said they had it on good authority. Someone in town was working with Kolsch, plotting Rydrick's overthrow. Said if he didn't come forward right then and there, they'd hang every last one of us." Kolsk. No one was coming forward, so Suithin, that's my headman, he steps up and says it's him. They took him at his word. Adair sighs and shakes his head, his eyes fixed on the tree. Bound to happen sooner or later, if not for plotting against Rydrick, then for protecting me. Arismital says, "What does your town have against you?"
Picked the wrong god. That's what it comes down to. Used to be a lot of Aethys worshippers in Gilded Vale. That mess of rocks over there, that was a temple to him, to give you some idea.
Adair shrugs.
Then one day, somebody named Widewind shows up on Deerwood's doorstep. Says he's the living flesh of Aethys. Got an army with him. Suddenly, Aethys isn't so popular in these parts. My brother Woden and me, neither of us believed it. No way was that Aethys. He enlisted, and then I did too. But, he didn't make it back. After the war, people took to punishing Aethys worshippers, accusing them of treason. Got real ugly, especially after the legacy started. Folks needed someone to blame. I was safe because I fought, but then this rumor starts that my brother, that he was on the wrong side. And I wasn't so safe anymore. Until my headman stepped in and said they'd have to hang him to get to me. Seems that's no longer a concern. Of course, the townies don't do the hanging these days, but when Radrick's men come, they got no problem doing the pointing.
Adair looks up at the tree, his eyes trailing one of the swaying bodies. Aloth glances at you and lowers his voice. "You can see why I was eager to live. Arismetal says, Who's Kolsh? Eder says, Someone who got tired of all the hangings. He's on the run now, probably will be till they catch him. Arismetal says, If you're next to be hanged, what are you still doing here? Eder gives a half smile, drinking, mostly. Point of fact, I'm on my way out. Just haven't figured where I'm going yet. Not a whole lot of places out there that don't think Whiteone's legacy started with Whiteone. Arismetal says, The war. Eder says, Saints' War. Only one in my lifetime. Fella decides he's the living incarnation of Eothas. Overthrows Riadseras, marches on Deerwood, so we gave him a Deerwooden Hello. Arismetal says, What's a Deerwooden Hello?
We blew him up.
Eder smiles at this, but it is the smile of one recounting a joke, for effect, rather than enjoyment. Arismetal says, Who is Eothas? Eder says, God of rebirth and redemption. Formerly anyhow. Maybe they call him something different where you're from. Arismetal says, I had other questions. Eder says, I got time. Arismetal says, we could travel together. Eder says, where you headed? Arismetal says, someplace called Kait Nua. There's an old watcher there who might be able to help me.
Seem to remember hearing something about that years ago. He tamed that place. People would seek him out for all kinds of things. Troubles of the soul, questions for the departed. Of course, that was back when you didn't have to say watcher with a hush on your breath. A man such as that, there'd be things I'd want to ask him. Don't know why I never thought of it before.
Something kindles in Eder's eyes, and the vigor of purpose finds its way into his voice.
Not sure how I feel about setting out with a stranger, and a strange one at that. But, truth be told, you might be the only one in town who wouldn't feel some relief seeing me swing from that tree.
Eder scratches his beard absently with a calloused thumb. Aloth says, there's a fine reason if I ever heard one.
All right then. Guess I'll do some sightseeing. Long as you're not the one picking the sights.
Eder shrugs. He glances briefly at the tree. He tilts his head forward and gives you a pointed look. Arismetal says, let's get going.
I shall.
The Old Watcher, the spirit of Caldera de Beranzi, one of Lord Rydric's unfortunate victims, has directed me towards Kait Nua, where I will find a man named Myrwald. Caldera has informed me that I have become something known as a Watcher, and that this Myrwald is a Watcher as well. Perhaps he can tell me more about what's happening to me. Travel to Kait Nua. Kait Nua is southeast of Gilded Vale, past the Black Meadow. I will have to travel there if I am to speak with Myrwald. Southeast of Gilded Vale. You ever been to Defiance Bay? Says a villager. With the roads like they are, I'll stay put. Okay. The Black Hound Inn's a fine place to sit and have a smoke. Did you hear the bells? Bad news, I think. The crops are blighted. The legacy is upon us. This place is cursed. I heard they fended off another attack on Lord Rydric's keep. An attack on Lord Rydric's keep. Southeast to Kaitnua, Magran's Fork. 4 hours. Okay. Magran's Fork. A road. A trail. Young wolf. Location discovered. Shrine of Magran. Durans.
Saw you in the flames.
Saw me in the flames. Durans, squatting at the base of the statue, is an incredibly ugly man, with bulging red cheeks raked by pox scars and a scraggly beard. He is sweating, as if he has a fever, but his breathing is measured and steady, like a slow push of a blacksmith's bellows, but that comparison feels strange and unwelcome. The next comparison, possibly sparked by his grin, is that of a bear trap, and then out of nowhere, there is the hint of alchemical fire that fades almost as soon as you identify the smell.
Come to pray at the statue?
The question mark is barely there. As the man makes the statement, the statue takes on a reddish cast, as if one is holding a torch to it, then slowly blossoms into waving flames. The man doesn't turn as the statue blossoms into fire.
The others are welcome, but it's best if just you and I trade words, and your shadows stay quiet. Hands off their weapons, both arcane and steel. It's only you I want to trade words with anyway.
Durance's face tenses with his iron bear trap smile, ready to spring.
I swear before the whore that is Margaret, no harm will come to you in her shadow, if that's enough of a promise for you. If not...
The staff rests easily in his hand. It wasn't there a moment ago. Aris Mittal examines the statue. The weaving firelight from the statue gives off no heat, so much so you wonder if it is some trick of the mind. The ugly man before you doesn't seem to notice it or feel it, although the sheen on his brow is still present, as if he's burning up from within. Aris Mittal studies the man. The sudden weaving flames from the statue of Magran cast more light on his features. The man's robes are dirty, stained with grease and other marks of the road. The hems of his robes, including the sleeves, are burned at the edges as if he walked a great distance across a fire, then reached into the flames with his hands to pull something out. But while his hands are thick and callous, they bear no burn or scorch marks. Aris Mittal focuses his gaze on the staff. The staff looks thick, stout, of blackened ash once burned by a terrible fire. Beneath the ash, the lines in the wood bear shapes and patterns, and there is a certainty the staff was once something far more dangerous, but not now. As you study it deeper, it shimmers slightly in your eyes, like water catching the light weaving across the statue. Whatever power was bled from the staff, it doesn't make it or the wielder any less dangerous. You look up to see the man watching you studying the staff. As his gaze meets yours, he nods with a humorless smile. Aris Mittal says, "Strange choice of company. Stone seems cold comfort." Durance smiles slightly at your words, then nods, never taking his eyes off you. "I could do better, though the road holds little else." His eyes run the length of your frame, and he follows it with a sneer. "Until now."
The world holds many whores we worship. Respect comes with honest titles. I bet even you have gone against instinct in exchange for a little copper, or paid for such in countless ways.
So, this man worship whores. The ultimate... I don't know. The ultimate... what should I call him? So he worships horse. Did he get the horse, or did he just worship the horse? If it's the latter, well, he's the ultimate simp. Aris Mittal, he doesn't worship horse. He just uses them and pay them for their services. Well, not really. Aris Mittal doesn't engage in whorish activity.
But if I give offense, if words are all that are left to a man, then why in the Deerwood of all places he should have leave to speak them?
Durance's face cracks a smile with teeth, almost a dare. Aris Mittal says, "I didn't catch your name, or why you want to speak with me."
I didn't give it. You probably find names as useless as I do. The names that litter this world like debris are hard enough to wrap around the tongue. And what do they matter?
Durance grunts. His hand tightens around the staff.
It's what's beneath the skin and the letters I care about. What burns within. It's more important to me you're a watcher than whatever culture or accent decorates your letters like awkward crowns. Take pride in your actions, not where you hail from, or how your name rolls off whatever liar's tongue coats it now.
The man's stuff blossoms with fire for a moment, then the embers settle. So I'm not sure what he's talking about. I understand the first paragraph. He doesn't care about Aris Mittal's culture or accent. He only cares that I'm a watcher, so he knows that I am a watcher. And the second paragraph, take pride in your actions, not where you hail from. I understand that. But the following sentence I'm not sure I understand. Or how your name rolls off whatever liar's tongue coats it now. You mean people who tells lies about me? Perhaps.
If you need a title to hang on me to match your own, Watcher, then call me Durance. And as you observe souls, I test them.
Aris Mittal says, how do you know I was a watcher? Duran shakes his head, and his hand curls tightly on his staff. I can see the questions bubbling up. Let's burn them away one by one.
I am a missionary. I walk this diseased nation with its heathen, its people so careless with the spirits of others and their own, watchers among them. Yes, I know you for what you are, and your name doesn't interest me. Names are for honest folk, and you are a crack that shines light from another place. We're meant to travel together, you and I. Saw you in the flames. Not your face, but that soul of yours. All tightened up, like a huntsman's knot.
Durance grunts again, his eyes narrowing. Aris Mittal says, you saw my soul in the flames.
There's things we can teach each other, if you're in need of answers to your mantle of questions. I don't force my words on anyone other than you. I don't care who walks with you or what their mewling problems and politics are. There's enough howling in the world without me stoking that fire. I won't take from your provisions, don't need much on the road. I can carry my weight, which is considerable.
Durance inhales, again giving you the impression of a blacksmith bellows, and he smiles, almost proudly.
Many will stand against you. They probably already have, from what I can see. Left their marks, it seems. Like a trail, worming its way behind you.
Duran stares at you for a moment, his brow creasing. Aris Mittal says, what kind of marks?
Disease? Spirit wind? Both could have touched you, yet here you stand.
Duran stares at your face, then into your eyes, almost dully at first, then more intently. Duran shrugs. So, what does he mean by disease and spirit wind?
As for disease, not all of us were close to water when the pox hit, but it's no longer a passenger in my flesh. It left its marks as well. But like flames, the pox doesn't strike twice, nor is it catching.
Duran taps the pox scars on his face. Aris Mittal says, company would be welcome on the road, or should I choose number 2? Aris Mittal says, If your stone mistress there allows it, then come on.
Her? Don't fear her jealousy. Let us see what the road holds, Watcher.
Durance glances at the statue, then gives a low chuckle. His chuckle dies into a smile, a genuine one. All right, the trials of Durance. Okay, where was I? Okay, let's go. Southeast to Kait Nua. Shrine of Magran.
Of course.
Oh, Bambi. No, don't run, Bambi. Why? Unslocks compass. Not where I want to go. I want to go here, Kait Nua. There's a road to the east. Okay. Okay, Black Meadow, and then Kait Nua. Okay. 4 hours from Magran's Fork to Black Meadow. Yeah. Just to the east, followed the main road. For a stroll.
Hey.
Troll skin. The hide of a troll is formed of what appears to be several layers of thin vines, plants, and mulch, forming a thick, nearly impenetrable skin.
Indeed.
Another one of those visions. More people being tortured. Interesting. Kaid Nua. 18 hours. Why so long? The Old Watcher. Cheerful humming. Kana. Just off the side of the path into Kainua stands an imposing figure, a tall, thick-set Aumaua, clad in worn armor and peering up at the outer walls of the keep. In his hand is a small piece of charcoal, and it works feverishly at taking notes upon a small scrap of paper. More than once he has to reach up to prevent his colorful cap from falling off his head as he gazes upwards. It works feverishly. Is it referring to the charcoal or the Aumaua? Arismital says that moldy brickwork must be fascinating. The man looks over at you, blinking in surprise. His face splits in a wide and very toothy grin, and he waves the parchment in greeting.
It is. Well, not the wall itself, perhaps. The construction is very traditional. There are names scratched upon some of the bricks, just there. Workers and masons, I expect, carving a little immortality for themselves. It's a fine keep, Cadnua. 2 centuries to its name, and abandoned for nearly as long.
He looks up at the wall again, expression fond.
But the truly interesting part is in there, and I haven't had much luck in reaching the keep itself. I hoped to find the master of this place, a man by the name of Meerwald, but it seems that he either holds his privacy most dear, or else has been devoured by his house guests.
This Aumaua is looking for Meerwald as well. He points the piece of charcoal at the gates. Arismital says, "Why haven't you gone inside?" Kana says, "Well, it's just that there are a great many dangerous creatures between the keep and I. I did make an attempt, of course, and I was chased away by dark spirits." Dark spirits. Arismital says, "What do you want from Meerwald?"
Knowledge. Or, to be less clever about it, a certain text. I've come in search of a great treasure, you see. Not gold or silver, but the Tanvi Oratoa. You might call it the Book of Virtues.
Kana.
It's a sacred text of Rawatai, but we possess only a small fragment of it.
Kana grins. So, Tanvi Oratoha, Book of Virtues. Is he looking for Meerwald, or is he looking for Tanvi Oratoha? Kana says, "A year I've journeyed in search of the rest, and I've found evidence suggesting that the original lies there, beneath the keep. I want to ask Meerwald if he knows of it." Kana says, "And you, my friend, why are you here?" Arismital says, "Apparently I'm something called a Watcher, and Meerwald can tell me what that means."
A watcher? You've spoken with spirits? There are many questions I would ask if I could do the same.
Ari, Kana looks at you with open curiosity. Well, perhaps we can help one another. The grounds are infested with all manner of beasts. I've never seen the like. I did not want to risk it alone, but you seem capable. Together I am sure we could manage it. And then we can both ask our questions of Myrwald. Aris Mittal says, "Let's go meet Myrwald then."
Excellent. Lead on, my friend, and I will be at your heels. Ah, wait. Speaking of that, I ought to warn you first. Wondrous teeth, I nearly forgot. I have at times been followed. It began in Adir, and in Exometal they attacked outright. I believe they do not wish for me to find what I am looking for. I say believe, but I have been told as much by one of my would-be assassins. I pay them little mind. Humorless sorts in long robes. But it's why I bought the sword, you see. And it's only fair that you should know.
Kana snorts. Aris Mittal says, "What are a few assassins between friends?"
I'm glad you're not discouraged. Come then. Who knows what we will find inside?
Kana laughs. Interesting. One shattered cask still smells faintly of ale, long spilled into the dirt.
Once more through the gates. With more success this time, I hope.
Actually, I'm scared. This is night time and Kana mentioned dark spirits. I'm afraid. But I have 4 other people with me. So, yeah. Oh. Shadow.
Brave Dalthilon.
Phantom. Will-o-wisp. Huh. No, Aloth. Low endurance.
Brave thou Philoth believe.
I'm sorry, Eder, but you are point man, alone, to the front. But don't worry, we'll cover you from behind. We will not let you down. Frayed lengths of rope and a few flint chips are scattered across this workbench. Okay, I can't see. Combat start, but I can't see. Okay, there it is.
Thou Philoth believe.
Only weeds grow in this dusty patch. Weed. Someone smokes. Okay, small earth blight.
Thou Philoth.
Primal rock, a chiseled portion of rock, slate grey and pocked with gleaming minerals. When set on the ground, it floats a small distance above the earth. Spirit residue, faint ethereal wisps of soul energy made manifest. What am I doing? The hedges grow in shaggy heaps shot through with weeds and tall grasses. Tangled wires and broken gears litter these wooden boxes. Is this an amphitheater? It looks like so from the map.
Stand still!
You are currently attacking a foe with at least one defense that is much higher than the accuracy of the character attacking it. Try to raise the attacker's accuracy or use a spell or ability that targets a different defense.
Curses!
Brave thou Philothili.
Perhaps Kana is not the best person to be in the front line. Okay. Time for some changes. Now, let's go. Yeah. One side of this pillar is graven with hundreds of whorls and ridges. Even under a layer of grime and moss, the Adra gleams. Oh, Shadow.
Brave thou Philothili.
This trapdoor has been battered by the elements. Tugging on the rusted handle only produces a heavy rattling.
Brave thou Philothili.
Lizard skins, knuckle bones, and teeth of various sizes lie among the weeds. Lizard skins? What the heck?
Brave thou Philothili.
Brad Hollow.
Leave our
Villager? What was he saying? Leave our village, we've done nothing to you. Alright? Why did you appear so suddenly?
Village! We've done nothing!
Immune. Dang it. It's immune. Ah. Primal flame. This bright little flame leaps and sparks with magical energy. Okay. Villager.
You can't do this!
Spectral smoke churns all around you. At first you can see nothing except the haze, but gradually you make out the wizened, hunched shape of an old elven man. His face and bone-thin arms are smeared with paint. You cannot do this. He shakes his head, spitting the words at you. Arismital says, do what?
Ours have lived here almost 50 generations. We were here long before your kind brought war to our lands. You can't just burn it all.
You cannot tell whether he's squinting through the smoke or scowling at you. He shudders with a cough. This is our village, our home. 9 claws.
See, soldier! Our warriors have all gone. You can't burn us all because of them!
Have mercy, soldier. After a pause, he draws back and gapes at you in horror, seemingly in response to something you didn't actually say, but illusory tongues of flame flicker at the corners of your vision. He reaches out to you and opens his mouth to say something, but all that emerges is a series of violent coughs. He falls to his knees, choking on that thickening smoke. Flames overtake the vision as you back away. Ghosties, is it? Ah. So it is ghosties.
Brave thou Philos.
This trapdoor has been battered by the elements. Tugging on the rusted handle only produces a heavy rattling. Broad Hollow. Interesting. The sour odors of rancid grain and spoiled fruit permeate the air. Dust and rusted utensils cover the countertop. The shelves creak under the books. Many of the covers are mottled with mildew. Cobwebs bind the remains of a broken alembic, a cracked mortar, and various shattered bottles and vials to the table. Rats skitter among the broken stairs.
Do you think he'd be mad if we sat in it?
What did you say? Eder says, do you think he'd be mad if we sat in his chair? He doesn't have to know. Whose chair, Eder? Please be specific.
His chair? He doesn't have.
Oh no, Eder.
Curses!
Whispers of Yenwood. His blade covered with graceful Glanfathan engravings. Whispers of Yenwood was once the sword of the first Road Warden of Kaid Nua. When the Earl of Yenwood appointed Kafed Eudhard, the young lord feared the spirits that were rumored to dwell under the young castle's foundation. He spent a sizable sum to have the black Ymiran steel blade forged, shipped to the eastern reach for engraving by Earls Glanfathan's slave artisans, and enchanted in New Dunried. Kafed is known to have used the sword in the Battle of Old Geiran, and to help the neighboring Rydrix suppress an uprising in Gilded Vale, but there is no recorded use of it in Kaid Nua. Over time, Kafed began to believe that the sword had been cursed by the Glanfathan artisans who decorated it. He confided in those close to him that he thought the spirits of the dead were speaking to him through the blade while he slept. One evening, against the pleas of his wife and soldiers, a maddened Kafed carried the sword deep into the misty woods of Eir Glanfath. His body was never recovered, but the next road warden the Earl assigned to Kaid Nua found it waiting for him on the throne in the keep's great hall. None of the soldiers could explain how the sword had appeared there. No road warden has carried the sword since that day. Interesting. Phantom, I see you.
Charge! Charge! Charge!
Spiders have taken up residence in the empty shelves. This map shows the Deerwood's old colonial borders. A settlement called New Dunried is marked in the place of present-day Defiance Bay. Okay, I'm thirsty. Let's cut here.